Ultimate Spider-Man is the longest artist-writer collaboration in Marvel Comics history, with Mark Bagley doing his iconic Spidey artwork and Brian Michael Bendis writing some of the best Peter Parker stories out there. It holds a lot of sentimental value for me personally, as it was the series that got me into comics in the early 2000s. And in the summer of 2011, this run, at least with Peter Parker as the lead, officially ended with the death of Spider-Man. Spoiler alert, Peter Parker dies. But of course this was in the Ultimate Comics canon, which has no effect on the Marvel 616 universe. At least, at the time it didn't. Now they're kind of merged together, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, at that time, Peter Parker died off in that series, but the run didn't actually officially end. It kept going with a fresh young face taking over the role of Spidey, Miles Morales. For a while, I personally didn't get into the series. I didn't have anything against it really, but I kind of missed Mark Bagley's artwork, and with Peter Parker dying, it felt like a good place for me to step out of the series. But years later, I decided to go back and give Morales a shot at becoming part of my core reading list. Now that he's a part of the main Marvel canon, I wanted to see how he was different from the current running Spider-Man series with Peter Parker. I picked up the run that Brian Michael Bendis started doing with Sarah Pichelli on the art, and I realized why Miles Morales is such an important Spider-Man to keep around into the future. And no, this isn't me going into another rant about how great the diversity is from the legacy heroes. If you want to cheer or yell at me about that, go check out the first episode of this series that I ever did. But this episode is about how Miles Morales is letting Peter Parker grow up. Don't know what that means? Well, that's the point. You gotta have a hook line to get people interested in what comes after the opening sequence that I always make you watch. I'm Christian Pearson, and this is Superhero Studies. Damn it. This episode just got a little derailed. So, I don't personally keep totally updated with the current running Marvel and DC comics. I like to read things in volumes, so I let a dozen or so comics build up in a series that I like, then I go read them all at once, so that I'm not just reading 30 pages once a month. I'm getting to read a nice big chunk of comics. And the last time I read Amazing Spider-Man with Peter Parker as Spidey, he was a successful business owner. He was running Parker Industries. He'd evolved. And that's something comic characters rarely get to do, because companies like Marvel and DC get scared of trying new things with their characters because they don't want to lose their readers. They know readers like this one thing, so they don't want to stray too much from that because they'll risk losing them, or at least that's what they think. So this episode was going to be about how great it is that Brian Michael Bendis writing Miles Morales is giving us our fix of the poor high school Spider-Man. With him filling that gap, it left an opening for Peter Parker to evolve and become successful, and fans wouldn't be missing out on that younger, scrappier Spider-Man years because we'd be getting it from Miles Morales. And the run Bendis is doing with Miles is awesome. The characters are great. It brings in some lower tier X-Men characters to help him out. It's got well-written teen drama. It's a fun, young Spider-Man story. Which is why I was so cool with the fact that Peter Parker was getting to change. I mean, admittedly, I would have been cool with Peter Parker changing and evolving anyway, but it's nice that when I want to go back and see that younger, scrappier Spider-Man, I can go read the Miles Morales stuff where he's in high school still. But anyway, to make sure I wasn't missing anything, because there have been times where I've had to scrap episodes because I didn't do my research properly, I went and read a synopsis for the current running Amazing Spider-Man comics in one of the most recent arcs called The Fall of Parker or something like that. And the synopsis read like this. former CEO of Parker Industries had no choice but to destroy his own company, blah blah blah. Since then, dejected, unemployed Peter, blah blah blah, and he's been offered a place back at the Daily Bugle. I don't need this. Do you, other Spider-Man fans out there, do you feel like you need this? Were you going, oh no, Peter Parker's doing well and has a successful business, I want him to go back to doing the exact same thing he's done for the last 40 years? I'm keeping that sneeze in because I'm frustrated. As a huge fan of Peter Parker, I loved seeing him be successful and finally get a grip on his life as a working scientist and a superhero. I don't love everything that Brian Michael Bendis writes, but if there's one thing that he's incredible at, it's doing the Young Spider-Man run. And he was doing it with Miles, so let Peter Parker do anything else. This really became a much more cynical episode than it was supposed to be. I've also been a little bit scattered on writing these episodes, and this whole occurrence did not help. I'm trying to do good episodes here, and I didn't teach anyone anything in this episode. That's bad on me, but also bad on Marvel. Let Peter Parker be successful. I mean, isn't that what other fans out there want? I mean, maybe I've said this already in this episode, but wouldn't you like to see Peter Parker becoming successful and doing well with his life? I mean, that would also just open up other different types of stories he could be doing. I really liked that issue where he was out in China doing, I'm pretty sure it was China, but I thought that was cool. He had his business going, he was globe-trotting a bit, taking Spider-Man worldwide, and then we'd still, I'm going over things I've already said. I might as well just wrap up this episode, because it's a bit of a train wreck. I mean, I should have expected this. I didn't put enough effort into this episode. I mean, hell, I'm wearing my pajamas while I do this episode. You only see me from the top up, so it doesn't matter. And my mic is broken and... Anyway, what do you think about your favorite superheroes evolving? Do you want them to grow and change more, or do you want them to keep being the same old thing? And what do you think about the idea of taking a legacy hero and having them do the same old thing that that hero was kind of doing, but from a different perspective? Well, the original version of that character gets to grow and change. I personally love that idea, and I thought that's what Marvel was doing. Whoops. But, yeah, this episode got weird. I'm not even gonna do a fun subscribe button animation. If you want to see more videos like this, hopefully I won't do many of them, so you're out of luck, because usually I like to be a bit more upbeat and do a bit more research for this stuff. So I'm Christian Pearson. This has been a really cynical episode of Superhero Studies, and I don't know, get out of my living room. Anyone watching The Runaways? It's not bad. I mean, I'm only 4 episodes in. I haven't been that driven to keep watching it, but, you know, we'll see. It wasn't bad. I liked it. I think it's weird that they haven't, you know, run away yet, but I'm just gonna let the theme music come up.